The NFL is omnipresent, as is Ian Rapoport, NFL Network insider and free agent frenzy. This is where, when you have a storm, like you have to label the storm, we got a free agent frenzy coming up Monday through Wednesday, starting at 10 a.m. Eastern on NFL Network. Thanks for joining us, Ian. Give me the Bills' side of the trade yesterday, their strategy.
Yeah, I think for the Bills, it's fairly simple. They have been trying for more than a year to acquire a big-time playmaker for Josh Allen, and you needed someone who you knew was going to come in, contribute right away, and be the kind of difference maker I think it's fair to say that the offense has probably needed. You remember at the trade deadline, the Buffalo Bills were in it for Jalen Waddle, right? Didn't end up doing it because I think the Dolphins were like, we don't want Jalen Waddle to beat us twice a year. Makes sense. So didn't end up getting that deal done. And, I think the Bills were in on the AJ Brown deal and said, you know what, this one makes sense for us. And the fact that DJ Moore had two of his best seasons with Joe Brady when the two were in Carolina probably made this fit a little easier. So DJ Moore goes to the Bills. And I think if you're the Bears, I like what they did compensation-wise. It's basically the value of a, third-round pick, 3/4, but they gave up a 5 and got a 2. That's a really good way to do it for Chicago.
And they'll try to replace him, I'm going to guess, with that draft pick or draft picks. But then now you got to replace your center as well with the Chicago Bears. How surprising was that for you?
Dahlman had been, I would say, contemplating this for the last several weeks. So I think it caught, the public by surprise. Chicago has really known. In fact, one of the ways I found out about it was Tyler Biadasz, who actually is signing a 3-year, $30 million deal with the Chargers. He was planning to visit Chicago, and you're sort of like, well, why would Biadasz be planning to visit Chicago? He plays center. They have a center. And then you sort of realize, like, what's been going on. It's tough to know what goes on inside someone's head, but what I would say is if at some point, first of all, you've made enough money, second of all, you decide you're not fully in this, you should definitely not play because football is not something that you can sort of do halfway. So, I think he gave up a total of $14 million, including repaying some of his signing bonus. So, cap-wise, ended up being not bad for Chicago.
The Rams-Chiefs trade, you don't normally get blockbusters like that in early March. How surprised were you, and how would you grade this?
Yeah, fascinating trade. It made for a unbelievable, we talk about frenzy, made for an unbelievable frenzy several hours as I tried to nail this down and figure out what rumors were true. And, it's fun when these things happen because the principals involved in the deal, everybody goes silent. And so that's kind of what happened here is, there's probably 10 people I can call on all sides of this. And for 2 hours, no one said a word. And you're like, either I'm crazy, possible, or this deal is definitely happening. And it turned out this deal was happening. It was very fun to hit send on that one. So, I would say for the Rams, the interesting sort of rumor or whatever you want to call it that I heard on the Rams is I know they have a lot of their players that are up now. Puka Nacua, Kobe Turner, a lot of really good players. What I was told was they want to get those guys done. That's important, but they're going to spend regardless. They believe, look, we don't know if it's Matt Stafford's last year, but it might be. They believe they have a window and they want to take advantage of it. So I was thinking in my head, like, all right, the Rams are going to load up for something. Trent McDuffie makes sense. I knew the Chiefs really like him, but were never able to get to a contract for him. So whenever the contract gets done with the Rams, he'll likely be the highest paid corner. And for the Chiefs, same thing they did with the Tyreek Hill deal. Got a great player, get draft pick compensation, rebuild a part of our team with these draft picks, and keep it moving.
What's Puka Nacua going to get?
A lot of money. I would think they'll take a look at it this offseason, whether it's this offseason, next offseason. He and JSN are both in the category of, like, whenever they get paid, it's going to be a lot. So, will they be the highest paid receiver? Maybe. But either way, you're talking something in the 30s for super, super productive pass catchers.
And I'm wondering who goes first there because somebody's going to set the market between those two. And then I don't know if, Puka comes in after JSN and goes, I'm better than him. I want $36 million a year.
Well, I would say generally what happens is if a guy's going to take a deal after, he knows that he's probably going to get a little more. And if you're the guy that goes first, if you have a good agent, and both these guys have really good agents, they will say, you're going to do this deal. It's the right time. It's the right deal for you. Like, negotiations happen when they happen. So sometimes they end in April, sometimes they end in June, whenever they end. The agent's going to tell him, like, look, you're probably going to get jumped. Like, that's the way this works. But you do the right deal for you, and if someone comes in a little above you, that is okay.
Talking to Ian Rapoport, NFL Network insider, their free agency coverage Monday through Wednesday next week, starting at 10 a.m. Eastern. Trying to understand the Patriots. Can I connect the dots that Stephon Diggs released, and then AJ Brown is certainly a possibility there?
They are connected, but not fully connected. Like, the Patriots releasing Stephon Diggs was a decision made not to say, like, all right, we're only going to do this if we get AJ Brown. My sense is it was sort of like the Patriots have done the last 20 years, which is, cut a player loose a little before it becomes a thing, right? Like, so we'd rather do it a year early than a year late. Diggs was awesome for them. It was a great signing. Had the off-the-field issues, which we'll see which way those go or kind of what the fallout from that is, but obviously something as an organization they heard about and dealt with before the Super Bowl. He's 33 years old. They decided, cut bait there, say it was a great season and kind of move on. And then, they're in it for A.J. Brown. I get the sense it's real. I know there are other teams too. And then if you're the Eagles, it's like I was joking around with someone. I was like, oh, is it, trade or bust? It's like, it's not trade or bust. It's trade or the Eagles, because that is a good situation too, and he's one of their best players. So I think a trade could happen, but I'm not going to say like it's definitely happening, and I'm not going to say it's definitely happening to the Patriots. We'll see.
What do you expect this weekend, early next week?
A lot of tweets. A lot of phone calls, a lot of tweets. I think, what generally happens is the trades happen kind of early because teams would like to know going into the week, like, what do we have, right? Like, so I would say today and tomorrow, maybe into Sunday morning, you'll probably get some more trades as teams clear space, as they, get rid of some veterans, as they collect draft picks, those sorts of things. And then, we'll probably still see some trades during free agency frenzy, but usually it's more just like very, very quickly a lot of players get a lot of money, and I expect it to be very quick.
Is the NFL still a copycat league?
As far as one team does one thing, another team says, all right, that's a good idea, we should do the same?
Yeah, like the Rams with what they do with their draft picks, that they go all in. 9 out of the last 10 years, they've traded their first-round pick. So I don't know if it, like, are they the model of consistency that people would look at and say we would like to emulate?
No, I think the Rams have been different because they've been in the window for so long. I mean, they've been to several Super Bowls. They've won one. I think the difference with the Rams and, like, not everyone else, but how many teams have really been in the championship window for the last decade, right? I mean, Chiefs have, Ravens have. There's not a ton. There's some others, but there's not a ton. So when they've been in their window, they've said, you know what, let's just get this really good player. And I think one thing the Rams like is they will say, we'll give up, the 30th, 29th, whatever pick it is, because I think 29. We'll give that up and know that we are getting a great player rather than the 60% chance of getting a great player with that draft pick. Like, they'll take the certainty rather than the uncertainty. Some teams don't want that. Some teams will say, I'll take the lottery ticket. It's like if I say to you, I'm going to give you $50 or a lottery ticket, like, you'd probably be split on how many people would take each. So I don't think it's a copycat league. I just think the Rams generally are in the window, and they will take the certainty of knowing they have a great player.
Help me understand. I've seen the headlines, and you can't always buy into a headline, but is Aaron Rodgers holding the Steelers hostage again? Or is it, this predicated on the Steelers, if they want to sign Aaron, then they offer him a contract? So I'm trying to figure that out, and even his appearance on McAfee didn't necessarily clear it up for me.
No, we learned about a lot of other things, though. Learned a lot of other things.
As
a
always.
lot about his personal life I was not expecting, but here we are.
Yeah.
I would say for him to say there's not an offer that he's considering, I think that's true. But my guess is he probably knows what the offer would be, right? Like you get to this point in your career, he's made a lot of money. I think was it 20 last year?
Yeah.
Whatever it was, like my guess is it's similar. So whether it's been offered or not, like he probably knows what it is. It's just a matter of him saying, do I want to play or not? My sense is it's the Steelers or no one. It's just on him to sort of make a decision and let us all know. And if he wants to tell us all sorts of things about his personal life and his exercise schedule and all that, we'll probably take that as well.
The Vikings wouldn't be in the mix here?
They had a chance last year and didn't do it. I'd be surprised if they did it this year with the same exact opportunity presented.
Okay, then let's do the musical chairs here. Kyler Murray, Tua, Malik Willis, throw in Kirk Cousins, I guess, if you want to.
Sure.
Got a feeling on any of those quarterbacks?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, we've talked about this. Minnesota makes a lot of sense for Kyler. He's going to have a lot of options because he's going to make $1 million, because the Cardinals are paying all of it, just like Tua. Tua's going to, make the minimum because it offsets into his previous deal, and that's all fully guaranteed. So the previous team pays all the money, and the new team gets one of the best deals in the century, of the century. So Minnesota makes sense for Kyle. I think a bunch of other teams are going to be interested. I think Jets will be interested. I mean, there's going to be a lot of teams. I would say for Kirk Cousins, I don't get the sense he would play for the minimum. So basically, if he gets paid more than 10, then the new team pays it, right? Then he gets more money. He's making 10 no matter what from the Falcons. So if he doesn't want to play for the minimum, then there's a chance he just waits. And he's the guy who, if anyone gets injured, they go, I'll take that guy.
Mm-hmm.
And, he's made a lot of money, but he is an excellent businessman, and he always would like more money. So I could see Cousins hanging around and waiting a little bit. And, as far as Tua, I do think he's going to have options. I'm just not sure where he ends up landing right now.
And is Mac Jones going to be available?
I think everyone's available. Mac Jones is in a weird situation of he played so well last year, and Brock Purdy has had times where he's missed time. So if you're the 49ers, I think they would do a deal, but God, it would have to be worth it to where, let's play this out a little bit. Let's say the 49ers trade Mac Jones somewhere for a mid-round pick. Okay? Totally reasonable. And then, God forbid Brock Purdy gets injured next year, and they go, why did we just do this? That's the fear. Because if you're the 49ers, they're another team that's in their Super Bowl window all the time. So it has to be something where it is worth it if you trade your backup quarterback.
Yeah, I wouldn't trade him.
You wouldn't trade him?
No. Not this next year, because there's no guarantee with Brock Purdy staying healthy for 17 games. And I know I have a quarterback who could be equal to him, who's the backup. And I don't know if any other team in the NFL has that luxury right now.
Right? I mean, and this is the problem. And it's like, you're talking trades, you're like, all right, we talk about, all right, so this guy's going to go for 3, this guy's going to go for a 4, etc. It's like, you have to know that, you're giving up on a guy that you might need. And that's always sort of the issue this time. It's really complex and interesting.
And Malik Willis, it feels like it's Miami or Arizona, given the connections of Mike LaFleur to Matt LaFleur, and then the front office going to the Dolphins.
I mean, I think he's going to have more than that. Again, he's an interesting case because he doesn't have a lot of throws. But when he's played, he has played awesome in the biggest moments. So you're not going to sign Malik Willis and then say, what's he going to be like in the fourth quarter? You've seen it. It's just not a huge sample size. I think he's going to do really well. I think those two teams make sense. But it's really one of the more interesting free agents in some time because he could come in, be the franchise quarterback we all thought he was going to be in the draft, and could be another sign where once again the whole world gives up on a quarterback too early, and then he comes in and he's Sam Darnold, holding a trophy. We've seen a lot of examples of that.
What's the next contract going to be worth for a quarterback? Like Drake May, what's his contract You know, 5 years, 290.
I mean, I would say first of all, probably looking at you'd hope to do 4 years. Dak Prescott's still the gold standard at 60. I think whenever Lamar gets a deal done with the Baltimore Ravens, which doesn't sound imminent, but you'd hope this offseason, that might be the one that either sets the bar or comes close. But yeah, I mean, if Dak's at 60, I think the next round of quarterback deals, you're pushing 60 or maybe more. But the cap's going up. That's what you want, right? That you want all these guys to get paid. They all deserve it. If you're, the worst problem you have is also the best, which is you got to pay your quarterback a lot of money because that means you got a guy, and that's a very good thing.
Thanks for taking time.
Awesome. Good hanging, man. Take care.
Ian Rapoport, NFL Network insider, the free agency frenzy coverage, Monday through Wednesday next week, starting at 10 a.m. Eastern on NFL Network.